All right, Matt, we're here, episode 12. It's about 3 months in. I think we're getting more popular, and we must be because we've got a special guest today, one of your friends and athletes.
We do. 12 weeks is a long time. And I keep saying this every week because I'm surprised that we stick to it every single week. It's pretty good. And yeah, so today we'll talk with Seamus Powell, enduro racer, phenom, ex-fat kid.
Oh, really? Oh, that should be interesting.
Yeah. He was fat. He was fat. Maybe we could show some photos, but yes. But then he came around, and so we'll have to get the scoop on that.
Yeah, so that's not like his current job is promoting how he was once fat and now lost weight and has a like weight loss book, social media page,
No,
life
but he
coach.
could. He could. I love when he sends over like fat kid photos. So like I'm always asking him, "Oh, do you have any more fat kid photos?" Like, because we'll get into the story later, but I remember when he was fat because he was a few years younger than me, and I would lap him during our cross country races because he'd be like walking up every hill. But, yeah, then he came around, and been unstoppable since. But how was your weekend?
Yeah, well, it was great. Like I finally had the Rotorua Marathon. And yeah, like it went okay. I think looking back, like that's something we need to touch on is monitoring training. Because I just didn't get my timing right and I was a little bit overdone, I guess. Like I didn't recover in time, despite having like what I considered the perfect build up. I thought it was going to go amazingly, and it just didn't. And so I shared the video like that I did in the members group, so the Performance Advantage like online training hub where I have all my training plans and everything available to the members. Yeah, I went over that, and so I won't touch on it too much here, but yeah, it was really interesting to look back at the data and show that like everything was going well. I just physically wasn't on that day, which is kind of crazy. Like I guess I've never really had that. I've always sort of either like mentally cracked or have gone out too hard. So, I mean, looking at it because of how I was actually feeling, it did end up being too hard at the start. But yeah, it was a great weekend though. Like with the we still won the Lake City Athletics, Rotorua Athletics Club. We won the overall men's half and women's half teams race. So that's the three fastest times combined. So it was pretty cool. Cool.
I mean, you're still eighth overall.
Yeah, like still eighth
Like,
overall, 241 on a very, very challenging course, and we had a pretty tough day. So yeah, like it didn't go horribly, but when you really put your neck out there and put the work in to do like your best and it doesn't come off, it does hurt. Stings a little bit.
Yeah. I was looking forward to the gram updates for during the race, which I didn't see, on the story. I was a bit disappointed. So I texted you and I said, "How did it go?" And all you said was rough with a period at the end of it. Well, okay, I'll wait and talk to him another day. Because I think I know kind of from experience that, with athletes, like especially when it's a big event, and maybe it does, and then you can talk to them about it.
Yeah, like the next day was definitely a lot better. Like I was really upset afterwards. You guys both have been in a situation where you've put in like countless hours of work, and then for some reason, like it still might go. And in a lot of people's eyes, like the outside looking in, it's like I don't know what he's complaining about. Still looks amazing to me. But you're like, how you felt on the day, and it was just it was pretty disappointing. But then I got over it, and now on to the next one, Hawke's Bay Marathon. Not this weekend, next weekend, about 10 days. So I've got to try and recover for that.
There you go. Yeah, put the feet up, eat some ice cream, and maybe go to Texas
Tim
Chicken,
Tams.
get some fried
Tim Tams,
chicken.
bro. Been indulging in some Tim Tams.
Yeah.
Seamus, you won't know what those are, but I'll get Matt to bring some over for you.
Yeah, I'll deliver some Tim Tams to the USA when I go. I guess
get the caramel ones.
Okay, you actually have Tim Tams. They're showing us Tim Tams right now. Okay. Yeah. I don't like Tim Tams. Too sweet.
Really?
Yeah. I'd rather have like some fried chicken, honestly, as a snack. But anyway, like well, I had a race this weekend as well. And as you know, I'm kind of more of a weekend warrior kind of guy. I'd ride every day, but I would consider.
And you don't have a full-time job, and
Yeah.
part of your business is riding mountain bikes. But anyway, yeah. So you're a weekend warrior.
Yeah. But like, so when I do a race, I'm like, I'll just go hard and it doesn't worry me anymore, kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
And I just, I have a power meter, so I'm always like, okay, how was today? Yeah, power is better. Sweet. So yeah, I had a pretty good race this weekend. Paced it pretty well. Absolutely dead last into the single track. Yeah, I think I had a pretty good race. I was pretty happy.
You were first female?
I guess you could say that. Yeah. Yeah.
Normally that's not the case though, is it?
No. There's some fast girls that are at the local series, topping the Australasia kind of thing. So
yeah.
It's
a good reference point though. Good benchmark.
Yeah, well, I just look at my power meter.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, okay, how's my power? Yeah.
Well,
sweet.
That was one of the first things you said to me.
Power was good.
No, was that you beat that girl? Yeah. All right. Well, we should get into it then. Not leave Seamus just sitting there listening to our conversation.
Yeah. I mean, well, like, okay, so if we asked a New Zealander to give an introduction of themselves, be like, yeah, my name's Will and I run. And it would be like pretty bad. But if we ask an American to do an introduction on themselves, I think it would be pretty good.
Oh, really?
We're much better at talking about ourselves.
Oh, all right. Well, Seamus, please introduce yourself to the people who would have no idea who you are.
All right. Well, here I am. I'm Seamus Powell, and I race mountain bikes. Just kidding. Nah, I guess I'm a little bit more than that. I race mountain bikes. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I'm actually sitting in the spa right now because I don't have Wi-Fi at home, or very good Wi-Fi to be able to do this and chat with everybody. I've been racing professionally since 2008. So we're coming into like my 9th year, 11th year. I don't know. There's a lot of years of racing. Math's not my strong
massage therapist, not mathematics therapist.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's 11 years. Would this be your 12th year? So you did 8, 9, 10, 11.
Matt's counting on his fingers.
Yeah.
I was actually on my ride today counting, and I was like, I'll forget how many years it was. Yeah, it's a lot of years.
I think this conversation on how long it's been for an 8 to a 9 is it's taking a bit long.
Yeah,
for 3 people.
Well, but you also need to include the year that you're in when you're doing years.
Yeah, so that 2008, and now we're in 2019.
Yeah, 11 years.
This is 12th year. You're in your 12th year.
Okay. Yeah, 12.
Depends how the seasons are structured, though. Because
you're throwing me off. I don't know. I've just been doing it a long time, and actually, I've been racing a bicycle since 1999. So we're entering my 20th year of racing bikes.
Second millennia. Yeah,
21st.
21st year of racing bikes.
I think that's not a bad introduction. But let me go a bit further. And say,
take it away.
So Seamus he's a 5-time national champ, and like I said, he did come from being a fat kid and to winning national championships. And
do you call them fat in America, or do you just call them kids?
No.
Like, and everyone's like, wow, you used to be a really skinny kid. That's embarrassing.
I don't know how it goes. I mean, it's not very PC to call a kid fat, so you'd wait and talk about it once they're over 18.
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, you were fat.
Yeah. Now you're obese.
my mom said I was husky, so
Yeah, that's how you do it.
well, huskies are fucking rad, dude. They
Are
never
they?
get
Okay,
cold.
we don't have predators here, so
Oh, you're not allowed to.
yeah. I mean, we only just let Matt in the country. So
I know,
that's our
yeah. No,
limit.
they tried kicking him out, but he's there still. So
Yeah, I'm resident now. Here for
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just got to start making babies, and then you're sorted.
Maybe not.
Okay, so back to five-time national champ. What else? Go.
What me, Matt? Who's talking?
Okay, so
Like-
what's the sport like? Talk us through it.
Yeah, can you just like give us like a history? Like you've been racing like in your 12th season. Can you just kind of like start from the beginning and tell us like how you got your start, and then like talk us through how you moved through the ranks? Because enduro's only been around for a couple years as a professional sport, and as a like a national championship sport. So obviously you didn't start there. You got your start very differently. So tell us in your words how you got the start.
Well, like any kid, I was an outdoors person. I grew up in a family. We rode bikes and did all the stuff. Did a bit of rock climbing and hiking and fishing and hunting and stuff. And then parents brought me to a BMX track. And then my brother was already racing mountain bikes at that point. And kind of always grown up on a bike. I started riding a bike when I was, I think, 3 years old, a two-wheeler at that. And then just that was my source of adventure. Like I was able to be mobile and ride around and chase my brother, and then got linked in with a local shop when I was like 13 or 14, and they were doing all the local race series. And Matt, you'll remember the Masters of the Mountains, and started as a beginner. Just like I had no fitness, but I could ride. I had skills enough to ride a mountain bike. I did a lot of walking the first year. I think I just posted a picture of Mount Snow from 2004 or 5. It might have been like my first Norba National. And I got 5th at that race in the beginner. It was like the 15 to 18 category. I was I think 14 at that point. So my racing age was 15. And I remember just somebody was asking me about it the other day, and I was like, yeah, I did a lot of walking, but I still got a podium. And that was like really the kind of the start. And then
American podium, just
yeah, totally. Like
top
everybody's
5.
a winner. Yeah, top 5. I ate a lot of cookies that night. It was so sick. I was like, I can ride and I can eat a lot, and then like this is fun. And then by 2000 end of 2006, so we're jumping a bunch of years after like going from beginner to sport, and then getting successful and like getting podiums and results, and then really just going and being around a lot of like idols, I guess idols or mentors that were fast racers, Justin Lindeen, and a few other people. And they really kind of took me under their wing at races. And one thing led to another. I started going on more group rides and road rides. And then I just got the bug, and I was like, I want to be whatever. I just want to see how far it's going to take me. I like pushing myself. And then it manifests itself into this point where then I ended up going to national races and winning, or not national races, but just big regional races as a junior expert, pretty young junior expert at that, like 16 years old, winning races. By 2007, I was racing as a junior expert, and there may not have been enough junior experts to race in my own category. So I would start with the pro men, and I was basically get like 1, 2, like top 5 or top 3 in pro men. And then by 2007, I was nearly qualifying for world championships for the national team. If I hadn't broke my chain at the one qualifier, I probably would have made the 2007 world championship team as a junior to go to Scotland. And then that all fell apart. But then in 2008, I hired a coach proper, because before then I was just riding my balls off and didn't have any guidance. And then by 2008, made it my goal, hired a coach, and then I was able to go to world championships. And that was like kind of really the start of it, where I really wanted to be a professional athlete, where I was at the top rank as a junior. And that year I was on the podium for national championships as a junior at Mount Snow. It was the last national that they had at Mount Snow. It was 2008. And then progressed to being under 23, and then pushed a bit too hard for a bunch of years. And I think Matt knows that, because by that point we ended up, I think we're nearly teammates on Giant Mid-Atlantic. I don't know if you remember that. And I think Matt remembers a lot of years where I was hot and cold. I'd have really, really fantastic races, and I'd be on point for regional stuff, and I'd show up to national races and get fucking shot out the back. Yeah. I'd be getting lapped. And then I got to a point in 2012 where I was just finishing my massage therapy degree, and I was super busy with school, and I didn't want to ride my bike anymore. So I was doing a lot of running and a lot of soul searching. I guess not really soul searching, but I was just doing a lot of not riding a bike and not knowing whether I wanted to race my bike the next year or not. And that's where Matt came in and was like, hey, I know this master's student, because he was still down in Pennsylvania finishing his master's degree. Do you want me to coach you? And I was like, all right, cool. And then I was like, well, let's just see where it goes. And kind of picked apart a bunch of races and things that were fun for me in 2013, because I had no pressure. National championships was back on the East Coast in Pennsylvania, Bear Creek, Pennsylvania. And that was where Matt and I did a lot of racing and riding. And it was a terrain that I knew. And I was still semi-invested in the cross-country racing, but that year, Eastern States Cup, the downhill series in the Northeast and the East Coast of North America, just started to come out with, they were going to have a whole Super D and Enduro series. And that was something I had already seen and thought would be really cool to do. And so I kind of just split my season, where I was like, I'm training really hard for national championships, and I'm going to race it on a single speed, because single speed was new and was fun. I didn't have to think about shifting. I just have to go really hard. And I didn't have money to build two bikes. And then I built a Super D like enduro bike, which was, looking at that bike now, is like, I don't know how we did what we did on it, but I made it happen. And had a really, really good year. Was winning cross-country races, pro cross-country races against gear guys on a single speed. And that would be one weekend. And then the next weekend, I was winning Super D races. And then like the next weekend, I was winning enduro races. So I don't know, I found a really good balance with fitness and skill, and something that was new, fun, and exciting, even though that I was like super green at it, and everybody that was at those races, but I was just better than everybody else was. So I found a lot of really good success and something that I could build on. And I went to national championships and won the single speed race, cross country race. So that was my first title. And then the next day won the Super D race. And that was the elite Super D national championship against a bunch of really fast guys and stuff. And that was what got me some recognition with the Giant Factory team. And I started to get more support with those guys, and kind of just snowballed from there. And just every year progressed itself to being where I am now. So I don't know what else.
Yeah. So then how were you before that and within that? So that transitional period, like how were you supporting yourself in your racing? So Matt you started the team, right, Matt? Giant Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, myself and one of my teammates. Yeah, we started that team in 2010 with the support from a regional rep. Then we got some support from the company. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was providing you guys with some kit and stuff.
Yeah. We started out, by the time Seamus came on board, maybe that was maybe it was 2011, the second year of the team. I can't remember. It might have even been the first year of the team. But yeah, we were getting our bikes taken care of, some group sets, and some clothing.
Yeah.
and then, you know, all the little gear that we had. But at the level Seamus was racing at, like, he would come to all the races and pretty much, you know, the regional races, XC, everything. He would pretty much, you know, just win. And, you know, that was like, so he was pretty much the man on the XC scene on the East Coast. And then, but then he would go to the nationals, and he didn't, like, he had a couple good ones.
Yeah. I don't know what was my best under 23 national championship. I might have gotten a 7th place. I think I got a 7th place. I was close, but never close enough. It was also like, if we were racing on the East Coast, God, I for sure probably would have gotten at least one podium as under 23 cross country racer. But we're always at altitude.
Right. Yeah.
We're racing at altitude out west, and so I would just show up a couple days before the race and just try to fight the altitude. And I honestly always felt like I did pretty well. I'm not a small
you're
guy.
6'4".
I'm not a small guy. And I would still do all right. Like, I would still hang with the dudes. And I mean, the little guys, like the guys that are like Howard Grotz and Keegan Swenson, they're all like 5'10" and 140 pounds. I don't even know what the fuck they weigh, but I'm 6'4". And when I was racing cross country, I was 182 pounds. I'm 198 right now. So that's just puts
198, man. What's that, Matt? And like a like metric measurement?
Like in a standard measurement, that would be like 92, 94 kgs.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. But I think, you know, Seamus, I think a lot of people would be pretty interested to know, because there were a lot of years actually where you were doing really well.
Right.
At least on the, you know, the regional series. And then, you know, there's a pretty big time gap before you made it onto a factory team.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of like bridge that?
Well, I didn't give up. Well, that was one of the reasons. Because cycling is a sport of attrition. My dad always told me that. He's like, if you got to ride the waves, you're going to have low periods and then you're going to have high periods. And you're going to have periods, maybe even a whole season where you're going to ride like shit, or you're going to have seasons where you're going to ride really well. But in my mind, I always wanted to be a factory racer. As long as I lived racing, I just wanted to be a factory racer. I just wanted, like, I don't know if it was like the cool gear or the support or the ability to travel and race, but
cool gear.
I mean, those are it's the cool thing that any kid wants. But then when you start getting into it and you start to become a young adult and you're training and racing and you're gotten to this point, and you're always on the cusp, always right there. And the transition was when I found a discipline that suited me, that I liked training for, and I capitalized on the opportunity to race a national championship that was literally like a 4-hour drive from my house on terrain that I could race. I saw the potential. My foot was in the door with Giant. I had a national championship, and I was happy and fit and hungry to win. And I basically, all the stars aligned for me to like make that opportunity happen. And I feel like my whole career, quote unquote career of bike racing, has been built on me capitalizing on opportunities. And I think athletes sometimes forget about, or they lose sight of, being able to tap into their intuitive power to be able to just like look at an opportunity and seize it and make the roadmap in their mind and make it happen. But like not forcing it to the way where you self implode. I did it pretty happily, and I did it very, like, I would say holistically in a way at that point. And that was the way I was able to get on a factory team. I just saw an opportunity, and I just fucking went for it, and it ended up working out. It actually took a year after my first 2 national championships. I was still on Giant Mid-Atlantic for another year. Basically, Giant was like, we'll give you some support, and you use whatever giant mid-Atlantic's going to give you, we'll see what you're going to do for the next season, like a full season racing enduro. So at that point, I stopped racing cross country altogether. And my goal was to win Super D national championships again. So back that title up. And I did it 2 years in a row. And that's when I got on the factory team. So that was how it all materialized it for me. But it can be different for anybody. But you just have to figure out what works for you and how you can be the best performing athlete to make those opportunities present themselves.
Yeah. How was it? You say there's times at which you're not racing well and you are, but before getting on the factory team, I've worked with athletes and am currently working with athletes in that position where you're like, I'm the one who just doesn't have everything, like that person on the team, like you're the have-nots kind of thing. There's the have and the have-nots, and you were in that position before you were in the haves in the factory. Like, how did you handle that?
I feel like I've always been a person that didn't have, well, I was always resourceful. I utilized the resources that I had in the best way I could, and didn't try to worry too much about what I didn't have.
Yeah.
So for example, when I was racing cross country, I was my own worst enemy. And it took me a really long time to figure out how to separate what, like, for example, like Matt's dad had a bike shop. My dad doesn't have a bike shop. Like, I have to drive 45 minutes to a bike shop, and I'm not getting stuff at cost, and I'm paying out of pocket for this. So it's like, that's the have and have not sort of scene. Like, I'm just using you as an example. This is nothing to do with our friendship or anything, but that's where people get into this trap of like, well, I don't have this, but what do you have? You have a functioning bicycle, you have trails to ride on. Do you have good organization? Can you learn how to work on your own equipment so you don't have to rely on anybody else? You can start using bits and pieces of things that that maybe somebody else doesn't have, and utilize skills and mindset skills that somebody else might not have, that you can overcome these things and become an even better athlete than somebody who has all the stuff. Yeah. Or, and you can't compare. It's apples and oranges. We're all different human beings and organisms, and we all operate on different levels and stuff. So you just got to figure out what works best for you. And people in social media nowadays, and even sometimes I get wrapped up in it, but like, people start looking at this guy, oh my God, he's going so fast here, and he looks so fast in this video, and he's doing cool tricks and stuff. And then you get down to,
was that my video?
Definitely not your video. But that was funny. But
I have a few stories actually about Seamus's in the have-not position.
Let me finish my thought.
Yeah,
right,
let him go on about social media. It's good.
Keep going. Everyone's going to rant about social media.
Well, we can talk about ranting about social media, but it'd be guys like, they're doing cool tricks and blah blah blah. But you get them on a racetrack, and somewhere you remove yourself from your home environment, your home trails, or your comfort zone. You put them and you plop them into somewhere else, and you said, okay, here's your 5 tracks you need to learn to race. So it's cool. They can jump, they can look cool on video, but then it's like, where's your racecraft? Do you know how to read a piece of trail? Do you know how to conserve energy on your practice days, so you have energy when you race? Do you think about race tactics and strategy? So I might not be, personally, I'm not the showiest human being on a bicycle. I'm bare bones point A to point B racer, which great on paper, but for social media is terrible. Like, I've never had a video look fucking good at all. And I look terrible jumping. I look like a fucking condor on a bike. It looks terrible. Like, you could take a video of me riding through a piece of trail, and it's like, well, like, it doesn't even look fast. And I'm like, wow, I was cooking there. And my buddy would be like, nah, do it again. Like, you need to slow it down and like put a little more flair into it to look good. I'm like, oh, all right. So like, it's really hard for me to get into those to look good on social media. That's a lot of work for me. But maybe for somebody else, a lot of work for them is racing. So the haves and have-nots, it depends on your perspective of what you're going after, or like what you're thinking about. So I don't know if that kind of sums it up. That was a little long-winded, but I'm trying to
no, it
draw a
definitely,
good
like,
picture.
that's going to be really valuable. I'll actually remove that and send that to some of the young academies I work with, because it's really interesting. Like, if we look, like, initially, if we just heard your initial story and it's like, oh yeah, I tried and then I was really good and I won a bunch of races and then I got on a team, that's what it sounds like. And that's sort of how the story reads from the outside looking in. But then you hear it and you go, oh, well, even though you're winning and you're trying new things and you're trying to find your way, it still kind of sucked for a while. And you still looked at it as though you were a have-not, whereas most people are going to look at it and go, well, he doesn't even need to try,
No way. This guy was, he was working hard. So here's my couple, like, Seamus, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you just, like, stories, like, and the first one, like, his first national championship that he won, he was wearing these absolutely clapped out Lycra shorts. And like, we were given like 6 kits, I think, to race in, which for, most people, that's enough for a season. And here we are, it's like halfway through the year, and Seamus's kits, like, the Lycra was so stretched that, it just looked silly. And one of the factory guys, they're on the uplift, and he just, like, busting him for his, like, clapped out shorts. And another time, Seamus and I, we drove up to Canada and we were racing, and we're getting our, like, drink bottles sorted out for, our feeds. And Seamus pushes on his fork and the damper just flies out of the fork. So, like, the fork just, like, blew up, and he just looked at me and he just, like, put the damper in his pocket. So he did that race with no damper.
That was a good trip.
And stories, even when he did get on the teams, and he'd come back from, like, team camp, and he was still one of the, initially he started out as a have-not, and everyone else would get sent home with, like, boxes full of gear, and Seamus would get, like, a few tires to take home or something, and he still stuck with it. And it was always glossy, I think, from the outside looking in, and, like, Seamus had his own poster, and that he could autograph and stuff and give to everyone. I don't think it was ever, like, a smooth road.
So why don't we transition into, you get on the team, and that's like 2013-ish. So let's say the last 5-6 seasons. Like, what's that been like?
Oh, it's been a hustle.
Even still, like, so, like, well, I don't really know what factory means. I just know it's the goal. Like, for the boys and some of the girls who want to get factory, like, they're just like, they just call it factory, like this I don't know, dogma of, like, support that is like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, can you explain to people who have no idea even what factory means? Like, what is it?
All right, yeah, that's not an easy one. This could go on for a couple minutes, but well, when you're on a factory team, you're racing for a bicycle brand. So Giant Factory Off-Road Racing was my first factory team. So that was Giant Bicycles, like, their proper factory team. Like, that was the bicycle brand's ultimate team. Like, so there's other, like, little satellite teams and stuff like that, but that was the team. So when you're on a factory team, especially Giant, like, I wish I had raced for a smaller brand factory team before I got on Giant. I think I would have thrived a little bit better in that company. It's a large company. So even within the factory team, there is a level of hierarchy, and then so, like, you come into the factory team, you're down here, Carl Decker, Adam Craig, and Marcelo and these other guys are up here. So then, like, okay, it's cool, you're on the factory team, but like team camp, I get, like, a bunch of jerseys, my team bike, some swag and stuff, and I get sent home with, like, 3 or 4 tires, and these guys would go home with Marcel was getting shipped home with boxes and stuff. He was also doing World Cups and stuff. I was doing handfuls of EWSs and things. So it makes sense that there is a hierarchy, and there's people that are more important, I guess, in a way. It's not clean cut. Well, maybe it is for some other teams, but that team, for example, was like they allocated resources the way that they thought probably the best way that they could be used. When you're on a factory team, Giant, I never got a salary, but I was reimbursed quite well for podiums, and travel was all taken care of. I think even some food I had a food stipend as well for that. So gas, lodging, race entry fees, a podium incentive, so podium bonuses. So I'd get a podium and they would pay me money. And then they were paying for flights. So all my itineraries and stuff. So when everything on the East Coast, I'd be driving to. So that was taken care of through my reimbursements and my expense reports. But if I was flying to Whistler and Canada or Sea Otter or national championships, that was all hands off. I'd literally, my team manager would send me itineraries and ask me if that was good or not. And I'd be like, yeah, I can leave on this day and that day. And he would book it and then send me the stuff. And he's like, we'll have somebody to come pick you up at the airport on the other end. And they would come with a team truck, and then they would have the lodging taken care of. And then once you're there, food was taken care of, dinners were taken care of, shuttles back and forth from the venue were taken care of. You hand your bike off to your team mechanic at the end of the day, be like, fork needs a rebuild, or I smashed my derailleur, stuff would get taken care of. So in that sense, it was great. But with that level of support, I came in super green. Like I was literally a year and a half, 2 years into even racing enduro, transferring from strictly cross country. I didn't even have a dual suspension bike until my last year or two of racing cross country. So I came into 2013, I'm going to race downhill and Super D and enduros and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I had no experience. I had no knowledge of bike setup. I just knew I could handle a bike semi well. So I was learning on the fly with the factory team and being thrown in with these legends of the sport. Honestly, because they're still around. These guys, they've been with Giant for years and years and years, and people have podium at World Cups and stuff. And I'm just like this two-time national champion with minimal experience, trying to learn the best I can and hang with these guys. So, and I kind of got caught in the undercurrent of that, and it spit me out the other end, where I was too shy and not proactive enough. If I was on the team now, I feel like I'd be a better ambassador, and I have more knowledge, and I'd be able to speak more fluently with mechanics and team managers about my needs and how I see myself in the future of the team and the sport. Because they would always ask these questions at team camp, like, what are your goals for the year? What are your, where do you see yourself? And, basically acknowledging your own business plan for yourself, even though you're with a factory team. They're not going to tell you what to do. Like, you have to be able to present to them that you're willing and able to like put the effort in. If they're going to come this far, you have to go the next step. And they were asking questions that maybe I couldn't answer at the time. And then there, it ends up being kind of like a little bit of a tit and tat, and I don't know. I just wasn't a great fit for the team at the end of 2 years.
I think you were just learning so much. Like, you came into a new sport, you came into a totally new environment,
Totally.
and like everyone was figuring out enduro, and you're figuring out how to be an employee because you always did everything yourself.
Yeah, totally.
That was a big difference for you.
It was like the hugest transition, and honestly, it just created a great level of frustration. Even though I was racing quite well, but I'm still learning so much every race that I go to, especially this year, like with all new equipment. But we'll get to that. But like just in those like basic first years of racing, like I was still winning Eastern States Cup enduros. Guys were starting to figure it out. Guys we were coming from downhill and starting to race the enduro stuff, and they were getting fitter. Every year they keep getting fitter. So like it got more competitive. And once it got more competitive, I was learning more, but the frustration was that like I didn't feel like I could make the team happy, even though I was racing well. And I was just like, I don't know, like what's the end goal? Like, I don't like, so I don't, it didn't really work out the best. It wasn't the best fit for me.
I think that was mostly like, well, I think it was a bit of you because, you know,
Totally. It was totally me. Yeah.
yeah, because
No,
you were like
blame's on
just,
me for sure.
yeah, you were just figuring out yourself too much. I don't think, you know, even you knew what you wanted because it was everything was so new. So
Yeah, true story. But those guys hit the ground running too, like the Giant team. Like I don't know when the first EWS was, 2013. And those guys had already had a couple seasons of those racing under the belt, like Josh Carlson, who still races for him. Like those guys were like, they were flying even 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So they were cranking. Like I could hang, but like when it come down to races and stuff, it was just like it could be a mess. But
yeah, you're like still like I'm trying to figure out how to set up my fork.
yeah, literally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what's low speed compression? What's high speed? All I had was rebound and air on a cross country fork. Even in my first enduro bike, that's all it was. It's super simple.
Yeah,
I like
didn't do anything
simple. No, but it worked pretty good.
Yeah. So then what happened after Giant? Like, was that like, I guess, was it pretty almost demoralizing? Like you'd built it up and you said like as a kid, you're like, I want to be a professional like rider. Like, and then you got that chance and you were in that situation and you're like, oh man, this is not what I wanted.
Oh, it was a huge mind fuck. I finished that race season. So I was on factory for Giant from 2000. Well, kind of a little bit in 2014. They were like helping me out and they flew me to a couple of races. But so 2015 proper, 2016. So it was 2 years. The end of 2016. That was the year I broke my finger in my hand. I had a weird year that year. I was racing really well early in the season, but they were like, I was supposed to do some more EWS races, but they basically just told me like, no, we're gonna send this other kid, like one of the he was like co-factory. So they were starting to like do weird things with like budget and stuff, and then I broke my hand and my finger at national championships in Mammoth. So that kind of took me actually healed from that really fast. And even then I recovered from that and I was still racing really well and just like got comfortable on my equipment that year because it was my second year on Giant. I was like, I knew all this stuff. I was starting to figure it out and I had really good results even at the end of the season. And I couldn't get them to confirm whether or not that I was going to race for the team in the following year. There was like some big changes happening within the company and the team itself. And I didn't get scared, but like I finally like just laid it out to my team manager and just was like, listen, dude, I was like, I have to be real with you. I was like, am I on the team or not for next year? And he couldn't give me a straight answer. And I just like, all right, find somebody else. So that was a really hard conversation to have with my internal monologue. It is just business for sure.
But it's what's really hard about being an athlete is the business or the company is you. So you're not like speaking on behalf of this brand. It's like the brand is you and you're speaking directly to the person about being employed or being signed. Like, are you going to sign my brand, which is me, who's talking right to your face?
Right.
Yeah. It's like someone saying like they don't want my product to be part of their business. Well, okay, I can go fix my product. But when someone's telling that they don't want you as the product to be part of their brand, you're like, okay, I'll go fix my product. You're like,
well, and it's a tough question to ask. Like, am I good enough for you? Like to say straight up.
I mean, that's kind of what I had what I kind of like, basically what I asked, long-windedly asked. And and they said, I got the answer was, if you can find something better, go do it.
Yeah. Which that's just a good negotiation skill, really.
It really is a good negotiation skill. But at that point I was like, well, shit, maybe I can find something better. So like, and lucky for me that year, it was still early enough in the sponsorship season that I had time to reach out to people. So I reached out to KHS Factory Racing because I had been to Pro JRTs. My brother was a part of a lot of downhill racing, especially with the World Cup here at Wyndham. He was track designer and builder, him and his buddy Lee. And he also designed the 4-cross track at Wyndham. So he was really keen with a bunch of team managers. And so he was like, hey, you should probably contact Quentin Spalding from KHS. And he gave me a couple other stuff, which never led anywhere. But Q is one of the only guys that got back to me. But if anybody knows Quentin, he's a little bit slow because he kind of waits to kind of let everything play out in front of him before he kind of jumps on anything. And so I had emailed him in August. I was like, is there any interest for you guys, KHS, to have a factory enduro racer? And he was like, yes, let's talk. And I was like, okay. And then I emailed him back and nothing, radio silence. So at that point, I just started emailing companies. And
at that point, it started to look like you were going to do a privateer.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to do.
You were going to go back to privateer that year.
Yeah, I was. So I never got anything back from Q. So I went on my way and was just like, all right, I need a bike, I need tires, I need wheels, I need whatever I could find a contact or an email. I was emailing resumes and talking to people about it. So now we're kind of getting into October, and I've got BMC, I got Vittoria tires, I got TRP brakes, I've got a whole host of other sponsors. People are going to start kicking in a little bit of cash. I had a little bit of something to work with for the next year. And literally to the second, I'm printing out contracts from BMC, Vittoria tires, and a couple other people. And my email bings, and I look at it, and it's Quentin, and he's like, hey, do you want to sign with KHS for, as an enduro racer for 2017? And I was like, shit. So I'm like emailing people, and I'm emailing him back. I was like, if you're serious, I want a contract by Monday. And so I just put everything down, and I just waited. And I was like, all right, well, I have to wait now. And he had a contract to me first thing Monday morning, and it was legit. And I was like, I'll only do it if you sign me for 2 years, because that way we have some longevity and we have a good working relationship. I was like, national championships again will be on the East Coast for 2 years. I feel like I have a really good shot at winning that. This is me grasping at opportunities. I saw it all line up, and I was like, listen, national championship at Snowshoe. Feel like I'm finally finding my sea legs racing enduro. You guys have a fantastic factory team. Like, you have a lot of really good support. They're super low key. It's not like super corporate. And I was like, I want 2 years so we can work this out. And like, at least one of those 2 years, I'm pretty sure we can come up with a podium, at least for enduro national championships. And yeah, we redesigned the contract, and he sent it back to me, and I signed it. And then I was like, oh shit, I got all these other companies that I've told them I was going to ride for. But then I emailed everybody and explained it. I didn't sign anything. It was all just verbal agreements at that point. And they were all pretty cool with it. And I had really good relationships with them at that point. So I was able to actually utilize some of those for this year.
And then you were on the factory team again for 2 years, and you ended up winning national title 4 and 5.
4 and 5. Yeah.
In enduro.
KHS in enduro, which was really dope. Yeah. I was excited about that. You were too. I was blown away. The first one I won, it was crazy. It was, I didn't expect it, because that was a 2-day race. And then after the first day, I was only leading by 6 seconds, and I had a whole nother 4 stages the next day. But the first day was the stages that didn't suit me the best. So I was really nervous for the second day, because the stages were longer, a little bit flatter, and a little bit more off-pace, techie what Matt and I would know is quote unquote East Coast riding. And I just knew that I needed to go to bed and eat a ton of food and like get my shit sorted out, because I knew I could, if everything went good, that's me at like at my optimal. Like I just knew that I could just put it down and like I could win that race, and I did. And I was just like, holy fuck, I just won another national championships in a different discipline too. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so that team was good for 2 years. Like it all.
Oh, they were fantastic. It's like super super chill, like super professional. Like we would get everything we needed. But when we were at the races, it was so low key. Like we had a really good time. When we were all together, it wasn't stressful at all at any point. And Quentin, he was a guy that would never put pressure on anybody. He was he was really supportive in not being a results driven team manager. He was really content driven, and they just wanted us to have a really good time. And he knew that if we had a good time, we'd be able to race really well. And they were able to I don't think there was any one point during the time I was on KHS I didn't have something I didn't need.
How do you think,
I always
like,
had stuff. I always had the equipment, so that was just like a huge advantage, I guess. I always had like cassettes and chains and things to work with and tires, and they may not have been the tires that I wanted personally. I might have been the wrong width, but I always had tires to race on. I mean, the same thing with Giant was the same way, but like KHS was just, there was no bullshit. They were just like, there was a purely like a racing team, but like they were also just really into making sure that the athletes were happy and they had what they wanted. And the structure of the KHS Factor team was quite different. I was getting podiums, I was getting a salary, and I don't know, was I getting, it was only last year, I can't remember if I was getting expenses. Yeah, I was getting some expenses as well for certain things. So that was super, super good, because that was the first time, well, I'm not getting a salary now, but a very small one, but it was the first time that I was like I was getting a check every month for racing.
Yeah. That's
that took a
before
lot
you-
of the pressure off you?
Yeah,
because
that's
that
the
was
job.
actually, that was when you were able to stop working.
Well, I probably should have still been working, but I was able to like, I was able to use my monthly, my yearly salary. I guess I was getting paid, yeah, yearly, but like I was use that money that would go to the bank, and then I was like doing quite well in racing, and the podium incentives with KHS were actually like pretty phenomenal.
You weren't hurting for money in any of those 2 years.
No.
So, no, like you were in a pretty good position. And I think when you say you probably should have worked, I think maybe you're more meaning that it like maybe a little bit better balance. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, I had a lot of time to do nothing because you can only train so many hours in a day. And I say that now, looking back on the years that I was on Giant and whatever, I like wish I had more things to do, because now I have so much shit to do. I'm like, damn, like it's nice to always have something to work on, whether it's my career as a massage therapist, my riding career as a racer, or just like honing my fly fishing skills, or going out in the morning and like calling in a turkey and shooting it like I did today. But
Yeah.
or just like there's always something to work on now that I'm like working and training and racing, and like it's really cool. But then again, you have to start to like compartmentalize your brain, and then figure out what's worth keeping and what's worth throwing away, and really organizing it and seeing, like really knowing what matters the most. So like being an organized human being is like right now is like,
well, they always say it's like, if you want something done right, like you ask the busiest person to do it, you know? So like when like,
no, that's just if you want something done.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
right.
Okay. But you know, like when Seamus was not working, he like, so you were training, 20-ish hours a week. And that leaves a lot of other, like you'd take a nap every day, right? You'd make sure you eat right. You were always working on your equipment. But you still had
probably too much.
I
still had a lot of time. Still had a lot of time on my hands. And that's when I started doing a lot more fly fishing because I needed an outlet. And then, yeah, so, I mean, that's just a whole nother topic, but yeah, I had a lot of time to do nothing, sit around and think, and then you kind of stew. But the years that I had nothing to do, I mean, those are great races. Like, it's not like my mind was self-destructing. Like a lot of people, if they have nothing to do, they'll just sit there and overthink stuff, overthink their racing, overthink their training and stuff like that. I wasn't doing that. Like in a sense, if I was thinking about it, I was trying to think about it in a way that was going to be productive and not destructive. And I think, Matt, you can even, like, I don't think there was any times during that I was starting to get like into self-destruction mode, or maybe I was on the brink of it and you pulled me back from the edge. I don't really recall.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like after dealing with athletes for a long time, I think like, you know, I have a really good understanding of how hard of a job it is and like how stressed like you guys and girls get.
Right.
Like, yeah, I don't think you were ever on the brink of like quitting or anything like that. Like you just had like different stresses than, you know, someone who's working and just racing for fun kind of has.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, well, when you talk to people about it and they, for example, maybe somebody that was or is a racer and has a full-time job and is also pretty successful at it, they will look at somebody that doesn't quote unquote work. Like racing is a job. It is a full-time job within itself, even if you're working full-time, and just say that it's not a job. But if you think about it as somebody that's a performance athlete and you have a lot of stresses and like performance driven, it ends up becoming a full-time job because you have to be selfish in a way to be able to perform at those times. So like, for example, like when I won national championships 2014 or 2017 and 18, it was just like, that was my goal. And I was like, I had to do everything I could to reach that. And I wasn't going to let anything else at that point get in my way in a sense. So, but I don't know.
Yeah, so what, you're not with KHS, like what happened there? It sounds so amazing.
Does sound so amazing, but there is corporate stuff that happens. So we have a fantastic president called Donald Trump. And so there was these Trump tariffs on Chinese goods. KHS also lost one of their they lost something happened within the company where they kind of took a financial hit potentially. I don't know the details, and like I probably know more than I need to know. I'm not going to like disclose any of it. They're fine. It ended up all being okay, but they I don't know. And then there was a change in the way the structure how they wanted a team. Quentin and I think those guys are getting a little burnt out on traveling maybe and stuff like that. And again, you come to a point where you have to start looking at where you want to be in your racing, where your life goals are, what's happening around you. It's not just your bike riding. It's not just riding on the track. Some of this was were decisions that were kind of made for me, and I just had to kind of fill in the gaps. So I submitted a contract or a rough draft, Quentin and I, to the president of KHS way back in, I don't know, it was even before national championships. I think it was like the end of June of last year. Obviously, with the national championship on your title with the company, there was a bit of a pay raise, not substantial, but it was like just a bit more. We were trying to bump up a couple things. I had some new goals and new ideas in my mind that I thought I wanted to do with my bike racing. And we kept every month we would try to beat the drum and kick it in to the higher ups that were actually signing the paychecks and making sure like stuff was getting done. And nothing was happening. So I thought for sure that the team was going to or I would be riding with them at least for another season. And then it basically came to the end of October after my last race. And I went around and around. I talked with the president and the vice president, and they couldn't give me direct answers again. not that they didn't want me on the program. It's just like they didn't know what was happening. And at that point, I didn't panic. I was just like, well, and then I got the like, if you find something better, do it again. And it's like, I'm one of these people, if you're going to push me, I'm going to tell you, not going to tell you to go fuck yourself, but I was like, well, fine, great. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go try to find something better. Well,
Yeah.
I'll try to find something better. And
Seamus is a really good racer, but I would say his negotiation skills, you know, he's been training like as a greenhorn, you know. So like you kind of just left, but I remember that time, like, because there was a lot of talk about the tariffs, and especially in the bike industry, and especially with companies that have things made in China, like there was a lot of worry about that. And actually, just this week, that's now a thing again, because it sounds like it's actually going to go ahead. The bike industry's suddenly they have to direct all these resources to well, they're going to basically lose money.
They have to pay the tariffs.
Yeah. So like if we want bikes in the US, you know, someone's got to pay. So that means like you as a racer, like, you know, you're not as important anymore.
No, the bottom line's important. So
yeah, and that's just business.
Well, and I totally get it too. I think that if it was any different, if it was a different time or whatever, I may be still riding for him this year. But the team program took a change. Like they changed directions, which is completely fine. I was getting answers really late in the year that I didn't necessarily want to hear. And there was some major life changes going on and around me. And I just decided that I was going to try to do it all on my own. And it was super late in the sponsorship year. So I just basically just started again, like I did in 2016, was just start emailing everybody that I could with whatever resources that I had available to me. And it wasn't until mid-November that I was getting any interest of a bike to ride on, or anybody was like getting back to me. And I didn't sign a contract for a bike in January. So as far as that goes, I'm really lucky to even have what I have this year to even put a bike on a racetrack. So yeah, I'm really fortunate, and I'm going to do the best I can this season with what I got, which is a lot. Like the companies didn't have to do what they did for me this year. But I'm also not getting paid a salary. I'm getting like little bits and pieces from a couple companies, which is in a lump sum is a pretty substantial amount of cash, but it's not income that I live on. That's money that I use to parlay into being able to go to the next race, to fund my trip in July so I can go race national championships in the EWS races in the US Open in July and August, to fund my all of the Eastern States Cup stuff. So that's why I'm back working full time, or basically full time. Well, now that I'm in race season, I'm basically every other week. I'll work a full week, and then I'll take half a week off to go to the race and then come back. So it's a little bit hectic and busy, but once July hits, I'm not going to work. Like I'm going to be out west driving around in a van. So yeah, I've been saving a lot.
I'd say like
make that happen.
Like with the build up to the season, like you have a really good balance this year because you are so busy. It's that kind of thing where, you know, you ask the busy person to do it, and, you know, suddenly you find time to fit in like 40 hours of work, and you're training, you know, nearly as much.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of the winter. It feels like it was a blur because I moved from New Hampshire to New York and came into the spa where I used to work, and came in for a massage and basically left with a job. And I was like, oh shit. Like, I was like, so then I had to like re-register my massage therapy license for New York State, which was easy. Well, kind of easy. It was kind of a pain in the ass because I let my registration lapse because I wasn't working with it for a bunch of years, but it ended up being fine. So we're all good. And then had not done any sort of massage therapy work for years. And then working full time and then also still sorting out all my sponsorship stuff, and then training, and then like trying to get my feet underneath me from moving back to New York. It was like so much stuff going on. I just don't even know how I even got to this point. I'm still alive, so we're good. It was
made it out the other side.
Yeah, we made it out the other side, and the first race of 2019 is done and dusted. And I'm still picking mud and dirt out of clothing, and yeah, it was fun, but not the result that I wanted. But I have some really good takeaways from it, so we're all good. The next one's next. We got next week's the next race, so I think we'll be good. I got it all sorted. We'll be fine.
Wow, so it's a pretty interesting ride from starting out in cross country to being like a legitimate professional athlete. And yeah, it's really interesting. Like, I find it really fascinating just how it looks so different. Like when I see even this year following you on social media, and you're like, oh, you got a new bike, like a new Canyon, like,
right.
And the athletes that I work with are in similar positions, and it's like, you've really opened people's eyes to like what actually goes on behind the scenes. Because yeah, if I'm just like someone who works a general 40-hour week, likes to ride in the weekends, and someone is going to give me a bike and fly me to a race, I'd be like, wow, that's incredible.
Right.
But then if within your 40-hour a week job, someone said, oh, we need you to go to Sydney, Australia, you're not going to expect to have to pay for yourself.
Right.
And you're not going to have to, get yourself over there, do the work that you're getting paid to do, and then fly yourself back. And if you did a good job, maybe they would actually pay you.
Right. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. Like, but this
no.
is what's going on. And
right.
in your life, like, that is your job. Like, you should hopefully get flown places and to work for the companies.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when it happened that, because back in the day when mountain biking first started, the salaries were pretty good. Like, yeah.
Well, that's what I remembered. That's what I remember, like being at Mount Snow and just like, I didn't know what these guys are making, but it was like polished. It was like absolutely obscene. Like remember the team trailers? Like, well, so I always wanted, so when I was a junior expert, like I wanted to be on Devo, which was like the biggest junior expert team. It was factory junior expert. These kids were like, they would roll in. John Kemp had a limousine with a bike rack on top of it, and he would drive into the pits, literally drive into the pits with this. All the Devo kids would pile out of this fucking thing, go into the pits. They had team mechanics. It was like legit. I was like, oh my god, this is fucking sick.
Are any of those guys racing anymore? Anyone that was on that team?
Fuck. No, I don't.
Because this is the other thing that really surprises me about you is like you see all these juniors and they're like, whether their parents give it to them or they work and they get on a really good team or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And they're really good as juniors. But like, where are they now? Like, are they still racing or how did you make it through? How are you still doing it? Do you just love it that much more than everyone else?
Well, I think that I was talking to Ian Herkenroder. He's my suspension tech guy. He used to run Red Tail suspension. But he's that's on a back burner right now, but he still does a bunch of work with me. But I was telling him over the winter about like, I was like, I like bikes. And in a way I like bikes, in a way I don't like bikes. I love bikes. I kind of hate them at the same time, especially when I have to work on them. But what I love about racing is that I can push myself. It's my athletic outlet. I'm not a really good artist. I'm not really good at a lot of things, but I'm really good at pushing myself. And it's a way to be able to like just express myself in the best way that I can. So bike racing at first was cool because like I could hang out with people and it was like I've kind of found my niche and stuff. And then it's always manifests itself into something else every year. And since I started racing enduro and I guess becoming successful and stuff, I've found bike racing to be my like artistic outlet. You can ride a piece of trail one way today, you can ride it a different way tomorrow. It's your canvas. It's like your whatever. And so is training is the same way for me. There is 100 different ways, and not 100 different ways. Like Matt and I were talking about before the podcast on a separate phone call, a proper coaching phone call about about intervals that I wanted to do on Thursday morning. And I wrote a couple notes into Training Peaks. And then Matt was like, well, what about you could do that workout, but you could also do these like 3 other ones that were like, will get you the same benefit, but you're mixing it up the same way. So you kind of get a really cool way to like stress your body and create an adaptation without getting burnt out on doing the same workout all the time. So training for me and racing and riding my bike all kind of come together into this little package of Matt's leaving, but this little ball of like, it's just like the way I'm able to express myself in the best way that I possibly can as a person. That's just kind of like how I am. So even if I stopped racing, I would still probably find a way to push myself trail riding or whatever. It might be even a different sport, but who knows? I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but...
yeah. No, because that's like, it's important. I think, you know, as a junior, it's, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with a lot of like how the junior programs are structured, because it puts, I've worked with juniors and very successful ones, like youth Olympians and things, and it, like, they choose to do the sport because it's like fun. It's like, just maybe their parents did it, or it was just a popular sport at school. And then they found themselves good at it. That doesn't mean that they've tried to be good at it. It just means like that maybe they developed early for whatever reason, they're good at the sport. So then you have some like 40, 50-year-old man going to like some junior child, saying like, oh, you're good enough to be in the national team.
Right.
And you're like, well, I was only doing this for fun. Now you want me to do it? Now I have to be good?
Right.
Like, now there's all this pressure that they weren't ever intending to have, like, because when you've chosen to do it as like your artistic expression, you're like, yeah, put me on your team and I'll show you what I can do. I can show you how far I can push myself.
Well, you nailed it on the head, because that's the way I've always approached racing. So when my mother and father, when I was like just the early years of, even when I was racing BMX, they never ever pushed me to go race a bike. I wanted to go. They were willing to support it. They would told me, you can do it as long as you want to do it, and we'll help you out. We'll drive you to the track. We'll do this as long, like, you know, you got responsibilities as a child or as a young adult, you know. But if you show that you're putting in the effort, we'll help you out. Like, meet us halfway, you know. So that's the one thing, is nobody ever told me, like, even in my depths of frustration of bike racing, I'm like, I did this to myself. Like, this is nobody's like telling me I have to do this. I'm not in a federation. I'm not on the national team going over to Europe and stuff. I turned down some of those opportunities to be able to go ride for the national team. First, some of it was monetary value. Some of it was like I was going to miss racing that I personally wanted to do. So I didn't do a lot of that stuff. But like, that was the one thing I don't like, when people have to tell me what I'm going to do with my own artistic expression, which is my athletic riding and training and my performance. I just don't like, Matt can tell me stuff, but it's like, that's different.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of years to get you to that point. But
no, I don't. Yeah,
no. You were always a really good athlete. But coaching's different. Like, I'm not telling you like, oh, if you don't do this workout, I'm gonna smack you around or something. It's like, look, if you don't do it, like, that's up to you. You're just not gonna get better. Or like, so like, yeah. And it's more of a relationship anyway, where we're working together to find the best thing for you as well.
Yeah. And I think I really took that bull by the horns this year. And that was the other thing too, on top of all the other stuff, is I mean, you were writing programs for me, but I was also editing and or putting in my own workouts and stuff. Seeing
one of those guys.
No,
Yeah, I think
was
it's different though. I think it's different. So I think that has been a shift that happened this year. Is like Seamus started to like do a little bit more self-coaching, and like from the moment we started, it was like, okay, I put it in the calendar, and Seamus does it. There was not going to be ever any question whether that would happen.
And I did it.
Every single one. And then if something needed to be changed, like we talk about it and then we change it. But you know, like this is our 6th season working together, right? So we started.
End of 2012. So that winter we went in, we did that fitness test down at Stroudsburg.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So
that's when we started. Yeah.
8th year.
8th year. And you told me to like, so we basically, based on that fitness test, where he was like, you just need to like go do nothing for a long time.
Yeah.
I was in a world of hurt.
That was when like I was like, oh, what have you been doing? I was like, bro, you just take a month off. And like then you took a month off. This was like the very first thing we did. You took a month off, and then you came back and did a power test, and you had your best ever power.
It was insane. It's like my body rebounded. It was like I needed a hard 5 years to put like, and then like a month off or something to just put out my best power. It was so silly. I don't know if that thing was calibrated right, but I remember I was still cross country weight at that point, even after a month off in the holidays. I was probably 185, and I did this power test on my rollers in my parents' sunroom, and I did 465 watts for 20 minutes.
Wow. Good.
And then I basically so then I was like still riding a little bit with the power meter, and then the thing shit to bed, and I didn't train at all with the power meter that year. So I
died pretty quick.
I can't have nice things. So I'm back not training with a power meter because I didn't sign the contract because I wanted to train by feel and intuitively, and just check in with heart rate a bit. I have the power meter on my road bike, but I got a flat tire on my last road ride and I haven't changed it yet. So
yeah, that's always the way.
Yeah. So
but I do think like you were in and out of power there for like the first couple of years, like, and then we once in a while we'd do a power test on your road bike, and then you were like super like absorbed with training with power. And I think because you came into training and it was almost like a yearly kind of periodization where we almost tapered you for a couple of years, and we're like, oh, well, this must be how we train you. So for 2 years, we kind of trained you with a really pretty low volume, and you responded to that really, really well initially. But then as we got in towards the end of that second year, what I think happened is we stuck with the same method of training because it had worked before, but you didn't come into it with all this fatigue from the years before.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think actually you started to decondition a little. And then
I do feel like in 2014 and 15 there was a slight level of I was still fit, but I was like, it wasn't as fine-tuned.
Yeah.
But
then we really built you up for like 16, 17, especially 18. Like you were really fit.
Right.
And now we've kind of shifted where I'm not in there like scrambling, like trying to give you like the dopest training peaks. It's like more like you kind of know what to do after like 7 years.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's just more of like checking back and like running things by each other.
Yeah, and I'm also not doing it as my like full-time gig anymore. And I have to respect the balance of what goes on in life outside of my racing. Like there's a lot of shit that goes on. Like I have responsibilities. I have rekindled passion, something I went to college for, that I'm reutilizing those tools and relearning all sorts of stuff, which is really cool. It's not a distraction. I think it's a really good balance, and I'm really fine tuning my own body with that. And working on 6 people a day, you're not going to want to do something at the end of the day. It takes the energy right out of you. I may not be completely physically fatigued, but like I'm I wouldn't say emotionally drained. That's not the word for it, but like I'm tired. Like there's some level of like transfer of energy. Like there's shit I don't want to do anything. Like I'm just gonna like, you know, drink some water, have a drink, like maybe have a little bourbon or something and go to bed. You know, I just like, that's it. Like done till the next day. I have to train in the morning when I work on full days. I have to be up by 5:30, training by 6 and done by 8:30 so I can be at work by 9:30. So I have to do it, because if I push it out to the end of the day, I won't do it at all. I definitely won't, especially over the winter time when there's no light. Like I get the winter blues a little bit. So I have to, like, it's easier for me to get up in the morning when there's no daylight and sit on a trainer in the basement and just like put my earbuds in and do a workout or lift weights. Once the sun comes up, I don't want to ride in the basement. I have to do it in the dark. It's some mental mind fuck that I have to do. Like that's just the way it works. Like I have to do it. Once the sun comes up, I start to shut down a little bit. I'm like, all right, it's time to go to work. Like I have to go like to actually like make money. Like, but that's fun. I actually really enjoy like getting up early and training when I have to, especially in the wintertime. So that's really fun. But yeah, I don't know. I also got back into snowboarding this year, which was super awesome. I hadn't touched a snowboard since I was 13 years old, 14 years old, something like that. Basically, like right when I started to get like really into mountain bike racing, I stopped riding on a snowboard. So now I came full circle, and I needed that outlet, something else to do for the wintertime to get my brain off of a lot of other things. And just, it was a really good thing for me to like use as a transition, because I started snowboarding later in the ski season, kind of around the time that I normally would be going to team camp, honestly, like right about February and stuff. Like I started to get the itch, like I want to ride my mountain bike, and it's snowing and I'm working, 35, 40 plus hours a week, especially holiday weeks. I was just doing so much and training and stuff, but I didn't have that outlet to I needed to go fast. And my coworker, I'm literally looking at the ski mat right now through the window, but my coworker was like, why don't you get your snowboard? I get free passes and stuff, and let's go. And I went out night skiing one night. It was probably the iciest night of the year. Got back on a snowboard, did 2 runs on the bunny hill, didn't fall down, and then we went right up, and I was just doing full runs. And then by the end of the season, I was just I was a better snowboarder than I was when I stopped, just from all the years of racing mountain bikes and 7 years of racing a bike down a mountain. I had a different perspective. And then I started to draw parallels between snowboarding and mountain biking. And I started to I was riding my snowboard like I was riding a piece of single track.
Would you hold handlebars and stuff?
That's not a bad idea, dude. I could be that dude, like Jerry of the Dead, just out there with it'd be silly. But
yeah, people do it in the gym, right?
Dude, the stuff that people do in the gym is stupid. It's dumb.
How about we get your thoughts on gym work?
Gym work should be simple, to the point, and not long-winded.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hanging from the ceiling, holding a ball and between your legs while holding handlebars to simulate the wobble of the bike.
What are you doing? Why?
I think that's an example of having too much time on your hands.
Dude, I could be that guy. That's that's cool. It makes great for makes good social media content. We all like to know what people do. But I'm the dude that's gonna do plyometrics. I don't have plyo boxes. I have a blown out fucking water barrel in the side yard. That's about I'm now jumping over it. So that's my plyo box. I don't have a box. I have a 55-gallon drum in the side yard. And that's what I use as a plyo box.
And when you want to make it higher, you just stack blocks of wood under it.
Yeah, super sketch. And April we've had and when April we started doing the plyo workout, and it was 21 days of rain. So every time I'd do a workout, it'd be pissing fucking rain in the morning. It was slippery as shit. So actually, it's probably no better than what those people were doing in the gym balancing and stuff, because I could have slipped off and fucked myself up. But I didn't, because I was focused.
Yeah, because you didn't just get finished juggling.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I mean,
I wasn't.
It's funny because
Yeah.
like if people saw your gym, it's like your bike workshop, and like I remember when you first started squatting too much weight, and like your bar, like you just have one of those real skinny squat bars,
Just
and
tiny ones. Yeah. Yeah.
and some of
Still
your
got it.
weights, ones that you fill with sand to make them the right way.
Yep.
So like you have like
Yep.
a mixture of like rusty old like plates.
Yeah.
And like you just have it weights filled up the whole way. You can't actually add anything
No.
else. Even if you could fill more with sand.
Yeah. Those are weights that my dad had back when he was like, when JP was like the shit, dude. When he could like squat fucking a brick building and then go run a marathon, and then he would go like commercial fishing on the Hudson River, and then go like kill a deer, drag it out of the mountain. This guy, like in his prime, it's like my dad was a fucking beast. So, but I have all these weights in the basement from when he was like training and stuff. So it's silly, and I didn't have a lot of room to like sling weights around. It was actually it's pretty unsafe. But I've gotten better about it. So yeah.
All right.
But
So
Matt laughs about it, but I've I mean, there was a couple years where I was in a proper gym, but I like my little nook.
that's probably about all we've got time for. Otherwise, people might like, geez, almost an hour and a half. One of the long ones. Matt, was there anything you wanted to touch on before we wrap it up?
You guys want to do a couple questions? There was people that sent in a couple questions, and I kind of said that I was going to get to them. I feel bad if I didn't.
All right. Yeah,
if I
definitely.
If I hadn't, at least Matt, actually, do you want to go to my Instagram story and read those out, and then I'll answer them as we go? Actually, there's one of them where I did it as a joke, and I would not. It's our buddy Jeff thought he was being funny, but let's not do that. I don't know. You guys scrolling through those right now? Yeah. Let's go past that one.
Some of them I think are just kind of jokes, but
I know, but they're not jokes. But the one, how do you balance? Oh, how do you go about balancing a work life that involves heavy travel with being fit, with sometimes no access to gyms and healthy foods? So I think we touched on a bit of the first portion of that with like, well, balancing is just like, yeah, just like figuring out a good routine, what works for you, but like access to gyms and healthy food.
Are you doing your hair, Matt?
Yeah. Does it look good?
No. It looks terrible.
I can't see it because I just have a little small view of myself.
Anyway, back to it.
Yeah, but access to gyms and healthy foods. But like well, obviously we talked about where my gym is. It's in my basement. Utilize what you have. You don't need a lot to get good workouts in. And healthy foods on the road. I don't have a particular diet that I stick to, like a vegan, or I don't even know what the other diet, paleo or anything like that. I do eat foods that I feel like resonate with my body the best. I try to stick to those, but as far as pre-race stuff, or being traveling, I used to have routines. It was terrible because then once you don't have a routine, you start to stress. Stress will annihilate anybody's race weekend, and they could be the most prepared person, peak fitness, and they could be stressed to no end, and then it could really throw them off. So just eat what's really good if you feel like it's good for you, and then kind of be flexible. I'm an opportunistic eater. If you tempt me with food and a drink, I'm easily persuaded. So yeah.
How about Chipotle?
I'm not a super big Mexican fan, but I'm probably one person that could eat 2 Chipotle burritos.
I did it. Okay. I did it when I went to the States. Yeah,
I could do it. I told Matt that I could do it, and he doesn't.
I've also
believe
done
me.
It.
I might
you
do
eat
it
like
after
a bird
time.
sometimes.
I do eat like a bird most of the time, actually.
I'm going to keep you on track. So what song pumps you up for a race? Saw that one.
So I actually don't keep any. I tried well, I don't know, because my music varies day to day, to week, to month to month. Sometimes I'll just be like on a 90s hip hop kick, or sometimes I'll just listen to whatever new bullshit's on the radio for a while just to see what's going on. But I actually try not to listen to too much music before my race run, because then I'll get it stuck in my head, and then I don't like that. I like to just try to keep my head as clear as possible if I can. The worst thing ever is to have a song stuck in your head and you're trying to get through a race weekend or a race run. It sucks. It's not fun. But yeah.
All right. And then
What
I
else
think
we got?
there's another one. How big are your tires?
I run.
Yeah,
That was
27 and a
tough.
half, or you 29?
I'm back
Or
on
you
the 20.
mixed?
No, I'm not the butch. I'm not the mullet bike. No.
Mullet bike. I have heard that before, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm running 29er front and rear. I'm on big wheels for the big boy. So to answer the question for old Onowski there, don't worry, buddy. We're both 6'4".
Yeah, I don't know. Did you have any other ones?
I think that's pretty good. We like to keep it like
Yeah.
we're focused for this podcast. We're focused on things that are performance.
Yeah,
related,
totally. Yeah. I'll save some of those for the other podcasts that I'll do soon.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot more banter, I bet.
Yeah. Oh, we appreciate you coming on. Like that's been fascinating. I really enjoyed hearing the story, and it's going to be valuable for people just as a reference to listen back to, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, the story from point A to point B is not a polished thing. There's a lot of things. I paraphrased a lot of stuff. I could talk about stuff for a long time.
Well, when your book comes out, you can
memoir. It's coming out actually winter of 2020. Like I'm starting to work on that right now. So it's going to be labeled so you want to be a professional mountain bike racer, and it's going to have nuggets and stories and stuff. So that's a joke. I probably should do it though. It'd be pretty hilarious.
It would be pretty cool. It'd be pretty cool to get some takes on how other people go through. You know, if your story's like the common story, or maybe you're the exception, or maybe people just don't like your Instagram account.
I don't care. I don't give a fuck what people think. No, I try not to, because it doesn't matter. I'm just doing it for me. And,
anyway, we're rambling, so I'll finish
go for
it up.
it.
All right, until next time, Matt and Seamus, thanks again. All right, catch you later.
All right, peace.